Hello, Dayton. My name is Courtney, and I have Ashlee with us and Pam from the team. And today we're going to talk a little bit about raising Black daughters in America and what it is to be a young Black woman growing up in America. Just wanted to shed some light on that. And Ashlee gets to give us the firsthand experience. And then Pam and I both have biracial daughters that we are trying to raise today. Just going to have an open discussion. And if anybody's watching or listening to this, add in the comments, share your experience. Hopefully we can just bring a little awareness and spread a little love. So,
Yay.
So Ashlee, do you want to introduce yourself really quickly?
Yes, my name is Ashlee. I grew up in the Columbus area, now currently reside in Dayton. I am in the process of becoming a mom right now. You may have read one of my stories that I posted about kind of our IVF journey and losing our children. But we're pushing forward and we're really excited, even with the hard times of dealing with this world that we live in and realizing what it is to raise a Black child in this world. So getting prepared for that. And I think that a big thing with that is that will be super helpful is obviously both my wife and I have experience as Black women in America. So we will be able to relate really big in that respect. And I really think that that's huge. For me, with my experience personally, I grew up in the suburbs. So something for me, I have always been around white people, majority white people. I've always grown up in that environment. So I think that it kind of taught me a lot. One, just how to be in the environment with people. And I obviously got a lot of indirect racism that, especially now as I'm growing older and even learning myself, I'm realizing that it was. And even though, because one of the biggest things that I get all the time is, oh, you talk like a white girl. Or do I just talk like a person?
Yeah, exactly. Like hold the microaggression.
Yeah, when you're growing up and you're young, you don't realize what it is and what people are saying to you.
Right.
When you get older and you're like, oh, you're basically telling me that you didn't expect me to be able to speak to a Black person. You thought I was going to be a lot of, this stuff. And it's just, that was a big thing. I think another one of the big experiences that I had too that was impactful is I grew up in an environment where people were not taught to think that people like me were beautiful. Right. So it was hard for me to in turn date and have crushes and see people because a lot of the boys were not attracted to Black girls.
Right.
So it created a really hard thing to have to overcome. And it wasn't until you submerge yourself into Black culture that you do realize that you are beautiful. People do think you're beautiful, and that's okay.
Right. Yeah, that's something I wouldn't have even thought about, Ashlee. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah,
it's just because I specifically remember boys in my high school, like we had, very small amount of Black people in our high school. And I remember them being like, oh, I would never date a Black girl, or I could never date a Black girl because, my parents would flip or whatever, I know we're like rambling. We haven't even really started yet, but even when I told people that I was engaged to Walter, like some friends being like, oh, I could never date one of those. Like he was an alien or something. Like, what do you mean one of those?
Really? And then just imagine being a child and not knowing.
And you're not even
you don't have that self-confidence. You don't have that yet. So it takes a toll on you and you have to really wonder, am I not attractive? Is that really what it is?
Right.
So that's
totally
a huge thing.
No, absolutely.
Because I can even give a shout out to my mom for the work that she put in with me growing up in the suburbs. She recognized that I was going to be surrounded by majority white people, but she made sure to still build me up in every sense. And even when I was upset, she was like, forget them. It's fine.
Right.
You're beautiful. You never, and she just did a really good job at just trying to make sure that I knew no matter what anybody said, everything that I was because of me and from my eyes. And it didn't matter what anybody else thought. So huge shout out to her for that. So I think that's probably one of the biggest things.
Yeah.
Super helpful. It's just confidence.
That confidence.
Instilling confidence and seeing, and again, going back, being younger, extremely curly hair. And even if, now we have great technology to where your hair is even straighter, but even when you straightened your hair, it wasn't always the same, and it just different. And you're trying all these hairstyles and trying to do the same hairstyles that you're seeing on all your peers at school, but it doesn't look the same.
Right.
But it was still a sense of, again, my mom, your hair is beautiful. It's doing things that their hair would never do.
Right.
And, it's tough when it has to go into the comparison part of it, but it is. You have to get to a point where if you're going to be put in a box, you have to be shown that you are above that as well.
Yeah.
So she just did a really good job at, for everything that someone would take away from me, she would be like, oh no, that's a superpower. Don't do that. That is a superpower. Stop it.
I love that. I love that, Ash. That's why you're so awesome. Shout out to your mama. I love it.
Yes. Yeah, Pam. We'll come back to that and just the importance of having strong Black females as role models for our daughters of color. Well, we'll definitely get into that. But Pam, do you want to tell us a little bit about you?
Yeah, hi, I'm Pam. I live in the Dayton area, and I'm currently raising a biracial child. She is 6 years old. She's in kindergarten this year, and she is amazing. I think that parenting in general comes with struggles. I mean, everybody that parents comes, some sort of struggles, but there's an added layer when you're raising a child of color in America. And I think thankfully I was prepared. My husband is Black, so he gave me some insight. I have a very diverse friend group, and they gave me a lot of insight as well. And that's also helped me raising her. I just wrote an article that will be on the blog about raising a biracial child in 2023, and one of the key points was making sure that you have like a village full of diversity for your child, because there are going to be things in life that I am not going to be able to help her with, that maybe her godmother, who happens to be Ashlee, or my husband can relate to her on, that I wouldn't be able to. Making sure that she has someone, a role model to look after or to speak to on some of these topics that I may not be able to speak to because I haven't experienced them, So I think that was like one of my key points in that article was really do want to like diversify your village. And I mean, I think that should go for no matter what kind of child you're raising, but especially if you're raising a child of color in America right now,
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Yes. And it's not live, but maybe by the time this goes up, it will be live for everybody. So we will get it linked. But we can see behind the scenes. So
right.
we'll be able to look at it. But yeah, there's a lot of good points in there. You said one of your things was to have books with people of color.
Yeah. So one of my good friends is a librarian. And she actually helped me curate like a list of some good titles that we might want to have. And we had a lot of the classics, but a lot of the classics do not have people of color in them, so even children's books. So she helped me find a lot of those. And a point she made really early on, I mean, when Jazz was an infant, was it's great to have literature about slavery and overcoming Jim Crow and whatnot, but we also need to like have books about just everyday things that people of color go through. Like the protagonist needs to be a Black ballerina or a biracial astronaut. Like they need to see themselves in just regular roles. And it doesn't need to always be about overcoming a struggle. It could be just about making friends, and seeing themselves in a representation like matters. So I really have tried to build up her library, like so that we have a lot of diversity in it,
Shout out to Herbert, though, because in time I've noticed they have it has exploded with
Totally.
so many cultural books of all kinds. I love it. I'm here for all of it.
No, me too. I absolutely.
Yes.
And I think you actually got us a couple books actually from Target. They do. They have a good line of stuff,
They
like all
do.
kinds. And not, I mean, like, and women as like the hero and like all kinds. It's
Or
really kind of
even
nice.
just even seeing, like you said, just real life stuff, just families, seeing
Yeah,
families of color on the cover of a book and seeing
absolutely.
them go through life, or, you know, all the kinds of kids, you know, mommy loves you so much, but it says you seeing a Black woman loving her child, or
Yes.
a Black man
Yes.
loving their child. And it's really important because a lot of the issue is exposure. That, just like you said, people don't see it. So when they can't see something, they can't see it as a real thing.
Right, right.
Start to expose, and like you said, it's not
Yeah.
just children of color who need to be reading these books. It's all children.
Yes.
They
Yeah.
need to see people of color just like them, so that it stops them thinking that it's there's a difference.
Right, right. I 1,000% agree. Great point.
Yeah, and I think especially, you know, because when they're tiny and like toddlers, you know, like everything is taught, I feel like, to not just openly love everybody and
Yeah.
to see those differences.
Right.
I have a post and I'll link it, but it's like through a child's eyes that I wrote a long, long time ago. I have a 13-year-old now.
Oh,
But
boy.
she and her best friend at the time when they were like 2, 3 years old. Madison was white, and then Addie, you know, is black, but they called each other chocolate and ranch, like because like chocolate and ranch were like two of their favorite things, and they were just like,
Right.
"Ooh, you're like chocolate," and I'm like ranch,
Right.
and like
Right.
so that,
Totally.
you know, like they kind of like knew that they didn't look exactly like each other, but it was so cute that it was such like an innocent way, and that it was just
Right.
two of their favorite things, you know, just to kind of have that
Yeah.
like look through a child's eyes. So
Absolutely.
yeah, keeping people exposed, again, yeah, not just people of color, but everybody should be
Right.
seeing
Totally.
beautiful representations
Yes.
of people of
Absolutely.
color. Yes.
Amen.
And I know when, because Pam, you had a 6-year-old, I got a 13-year-old. Ashlee was obviously, you know, a little bit older than that. So,
Right.
but I even, you know, when Addie was like first born and really tiny, like it was still really, really hard to find books or dolls or anything that was diverse. And I wanted to make sure that she had as diverse of toys all around her. So
Right.
I love seeing that things have come such a long way, but I
Yeah.
wished that there was more of that when she was little. And I'm sure, Ashlee, you wish that as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's why it's like I see these stories in these books, and I'm like, these were nowhere to be found,
Right.
nowhere. And even like a point, like you said, just even books that were not surrounded by trauma.
Right.
You don't always need to just see Black trauma. You need to see
Right.
victory too, and you need to see
Yes.
your success and flourishing and family and love, because that is another big part of it. Is everything that, you know, for the most part, what you learn is all surrounded in trauma and slavery, and you get Martin Luther King Jr. and you get Rosa Parks. It's so
Right.
much bigger than that. But when you are in charge of educating the next generation, that's all you're willing to teach them. What else are they going to know about themselves?
Right.
What else are they going to know about Black culture? And what are non-children of color going to learn about
Yes.
Black culture? If you don't teach it to
Absolutely.
them, it is our responsibility to do that, and we just have to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
1,000%.
agreed.
Agree.
Yes, 1,000%. And let's see, the next thing, Pam, in your post
Yeah.
was talking about knowing how to do curly hair.
Yes. No, for real. Like
No.
it was a learning
I'm
curve
laughing because
for
it's
me.
true.
You know, yes, it was a definite learning curve for me. And I mean, I have tried since day one to educate myself as much as I could. Thankfully, like I said earlier, I have a diverse group of people, friends and family, who have helped me along the way. But I think especially if you are marrying or having a child with someone of another race, you owe it to your child to learn about the history of their culture and how to properly care for their hair. Like, it seems like such a small thing, maybe. Like,
No,
I
it's
think a lot of white
huge.
think, what's the big deal, maybe, but it is a big deal. And you do your child a disservice if you don't learn how to do their hair correctly, you know?
Think about even as adults, what
Hmm.
our day feels like when our hair doesn't feel done or when we don't
Yes.
feel like that. It's
Hmm.
the same thing for a child. Everybody
Totally.
wants to feel pretty. Everybody wants to feel beautiful. And
Yes.
you have to learn how to do it. And it's
Yeah.
tough. It's
Yeah.
absolutely tough. And even on that, because, it's whatever texture it is. You might
Right.
get curly texture.
Yeah.
You might get a bone straight texture that's just
Right.
texture. And it's whatever it is, you got to figure it out. And you have to figure out how to make your child still feel beautiful, even
Yeah.
though it's different, or even though your hair may not go super straight like this, it can do this, or
Yeah.
it does this. And it's still really cool. But again, just they have to feel beautiful. When you
Yeah.
take that from them, that's a huge thing.
It
Hair
goes back to
huge
what you
for
were saying
everybody.
earlier about confidence.
Yeah.
Like, that instills confidence. And for us, it's like also been like a bonding thing for Jazz and I. Like,
Yeah.
like learning how to do her hair. And then also, like, she's getting a little bit older now. So teaching her like how to take care of it
Yeah.
has been like a big, thing for us. And like, I'm learning too. I'm still learning. And thankfully I have people around me to help. But I don't know. It's to me, it's a priority that
Absolutely.
you know, I want her
Well,
to feel confident.
yes, when I was pregnant with Addie, several of my friends that were biracial themselves, like as soon as I told them I was pregnant, the first thing they said, like not even like congrats, it was like, you better learn how to do their hair. They were
Right,
like,
right,
they were like so traumatized. They were like, my white
right,
mom did not know how to do my hair, and it
right.
screwed me up for my whole life. I'm
Yes,
like,
And then you
okay,
end up
okay.
stuck with ponytails, and it's like,
totally.
or not, your curls aren't defined the way that they
Right.
should be, and that's huge. And especially the world
Yes.
that we just live in,
Yeah.
where it's unfortunate, but looks matter. It's huge.
Yeah.
And that's just what everybody goes off.
I was like bound and determined not to be the mom that failed her with the hair. You know what I mean?
You're like, her
But
hair
I mean,
is
like,
cute.
shout out to the internet too, because that makes us like, that's a resource that we have that, a few decades ago did not.
Yes,
Like,
1,000%.
yeah,
It's even that way too, as our moms are getting older and just realizing all the things that they did were not
Yeah.
necessarily what needed to be done.
Right,
They didn't know better. And
right,
now that we have these resources, they just need to utilize them. It's
right.
literally right at your fingertips.
Yes,
It's,
absolutely.
5 minutes it will take you to just read up a little bit. You'll know some products to start trying.
Hmm.
Just try. And
Yeah,
nobody's good at it the first time they do it. That's one of the things people tend to get really discouraged, because it's like, I
right,
can do this. Just keep trying. You
right,
have to
right,
show your kid you're not going to give up. I'm going to
right.
keep learning until I figure out how to help you with this.
Exactly, exactly.
Yes. Yeah. And when Addie was born, like the mom collective didn't even exist, now
Right.
it's this huge national network of like moms and
Yes.
resources, and YouTube wasn't what it was. Like
Right,
you didn't
right,
have TikTok to scroll through and see. I'm like,
right. No,
there's
seriously
there's
though.
so many options
Yeah.
now. Like
Yeah, absolutely. I can't tell you how many times I either YouTube or I call Ashlee to like braid Jazz's hair. I'm like, I'm gonna bring the supplies to the park. Could you help me? And she
But
helps
look,
me
you're
figure
doing
out
it now,
how to
though.
do
But
it.
now you can do it.
Yeah, exactly. Now I can pretty much do it. I'm not as good as Ashlee, but yeah.
I know, but enough, yes, to make her
Yes.
feel pretty. Which
Yeah.
Exactly.
What she learned from that at the end of the day is my
Yeah.
mom did everything she could to make everything she made my hair beautiful. If I
Right.
wanted this style, she learned how to do it. Even if she
Right,
didn't know how,
right,
she learned
exactly.
how.
Absolutely. Gosh, and
yes.
if that's not like a metaphor for like motherhood in general, like we don't really all know what we're doing, but we just learn
We're
for
going
our
to figure
kids.
it out. For you,
Learn on
It's
the
so
job.
true.
with me.
Yeah, exactly. So true.
Oh, that's awesome. So the next one you had, Pam, was to
Mhm.
have a diverse friend group, which
Yeah,
we've been
yeah,
talking, which is super important for us as moms, but then also for our
yeah.
kids.
Totally, because like I think I mentioned it before, but I want her to see herself reflected in our friends. I want her to, we are in a neighborhood that is primarily white. So, like, it was important for us to have friends that are diverse. And honestly, we moved to Dayton because of that. And she currently, the school she goes to is 70%. Um, I think it was maybe 70 to 75% people of color. And to us, that was really important because the school, if we had stayed in the town we lived in before, it would have been like 2%. So we wanted her to go to a school and be surrounded by people, like the majority of her teachers are also people of color. Important for us to that she have teachers that look like her. I want her to see herself reflected back in the world that she's in. And I don't know that that's always easy in small town Ohio, I'm sure Ashlee can speak to that more than me, but
No.
I think you have to find your, what's the word I'm looking for? Your village, maybe, like curate your village so that it is, I wanted it to be like a safe place for her, that was
Yeah.
the goal.
It is. It's super important too. And just like you said, again, going back with technology being at your fingertips and Facebook,
Mm-hmm.
there's a group for literally everything on
Right.
Facebook. Anything that you can search, you could literally search how to get my child culture, how to get my racial child.
Yes.
There's going to be a group, and that group will be full of people of color who are willing to help you, talk to you, teach you anything because they recognize how important it is for your child too.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing too, is even growing up, I have a lot of friends, obviously white friends, and, while they'll say, my parents never said anything against people of color. It was never that, but we also never saw people of color.
Right.
So to them, that's also a thing is if it's not around you, you're not going to know about it or even to formulate the questions.
Right.
Questions. And then when those questions are asked, you just have to answer them in ways that doesn't shut it down. You have to stop the I don't see color thing because it's there and everybody sees it. And to pretend like it's not is it's detrimental to people, children especially, because it's there and it should be celebrated. I love my Black skin.
Yes.
I think it is beautiful. And I want kids to feel that way about theirs too. But if we're not recognizing that, how are they going to feel that way? If we're not highlighting and saying your skin is beautiful. Yes, it's different, but look how beautiful it is. It's brown or this shade of brown or this shade of brown or whatever it is, but highlighting those things too.
Absolutely.
Amen. Yeah, and I kind of touch on that in the Through the Child's Eyes post that I referenced from years ago. But that, because when Addie started asking, like, well, how come, like, I don't really look like you, Mom? And, like, and, like, how come I, look more like my dads do? And, it was, it was just a lot of confusion. And she was very much into art. And so, I told her, I was like, just like you love art and all your different colors, be creative. I was like, God's the same way. And it's a beautiful work of art to have people that look different and, like all these different cultures and what things that they wear and the way they talk and, the languages and everything. And she was like, ooh, okay, cool. I'm an artist just like God. Like,
I love that.
I love that. But it is, it's important to just meet them at their level and explain it to a way that they can understand it. And there's always going to be a level, no matter how old your child is, if they can speak to you and ask you the questions, there is a level of explanation for them.
Yes. And, I think a lot of people try to like steer away from the conversation of race, but I think it's like, kids are innocent and they're going to ask questions. They are going to ask questions. And I think it's like important to have those conversations instead of just like, a few decades ago, I think our parents or our parents' parents would have just been like, hush, we don't talk about that. Everybody's the same, and like, that's it. But like, we don't need to do that. We can talk about it. It's okay. Yes, my skin is white and daddy's skin is black and yours is biracial. Jazz has been calling herself biracial since she was like 2.5, which is like, it was really cute when she was little. She'd be like, I'm biracial, but she understood at a young age what that was. And I think it was important, like, it's part of her identity. We can't just pretend that it doesn't exist. So
and it's especially a big struggle too, especially for biracial, and this is something that I can't essentially like speak on from super experience, but they even experience a different struggle as me, a black woman, because you're in the middle. You have both of those identities, and you're constantly in this fight between which culture am I supposed to accept? Who am I? What am I supposed to be? So it is mixing that and just showing you don't have to just be one thing. It's not this or that ever. We can mix it all together, and you can be who you want to be with both of your cultures.
Absolutely.
It doesn't have to be. And that's a tough thing. I think
that
is a hard fight. And I empathize with a lot of biracial people in that extent, because it's tough. It really is tough. Yeah. When you have white people telling you that you're not white, but then black people telling you that you're not black. It's tough.
Yeah. That absolutely makes sense.
Yeah, Addie, and especially the last few years as Addie was going through the preteen and then entering the teen years, like really going through that struggle of, what am I? And like, even being all like, am I pro-black? Do I hate white people? And I'm like, oh my goodness, like you're a half white kid. Like you're gonna have to deal
but just like trying to wrap her brain around
and especially with the racial climate that we have right now, it's extremely hard. And even scrolling TikTok, and one of the things that I saw that like kind of hurt my soul was there was like a TikTok that I kept seeing, and it would be like, oh, if your mom is white, you have to stop celebrating Black History Month on February 11th. And I'm just like, I don't understand why people are doing this. It's detrimental. Don't do that.
Totally.
No matter what, it's that tough thing, because even when you are biracial, the world is going to see you as Black. And that's just as far as it goes.
Right.
Well, it doesn't matter. It does not matter that you're mixed with anything. The world is going to see you as Black.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and that's, it's a tough thing that we've tried to instill in Addie, is to be like, hey, it's not fair, but society is going to put a way higher expectation on you. Like you're going to have to hold yourself to higher standards, to higher levels, and it's not fair, but it's a fact of life, and trying to prepare her for that and trying to help her, again, we keep talking about be confident and be successful and, be a good person. So
yeah, absolutely.
About let's see, what did you have? Oh, we were kind of talking about like learn Black history. We've been talking about that a lot. And then I guess we're kind of touching on it, and Ashlee had talked on it too, but understanding systemic racism and how it will affect your child. So I know Ashlee, you even touched on that.
I know just from some of the white people that I grew up with, small town, that pretend that racism doesn't really exist. And I think if you are going to take on raising a child of color, you cannot bury your head in the sand and pretend it doesn't exist, because your child is going to grow up and not have your white privilege. Like Jazz is going to grow up and be a person all on her own, and she needs to understand what the world is actually about. And if I pretend the world for her is going to be what the world has been for me, that's doing her like a huge disservice, So you first have to like educate yourself so that you can then teach your child, And I think that's super important. And I don't know if white people get that fully, I mean, some do, but I think it's an important thing.
And I think too, and teaching your child how to navigate in that, and even to the point of saying, how to respond to people when people say things that are inappropriate.
Yes.
Let them create that and be able to confidently say, I don't like that you asked me that question. I don't think that that's any of your business, things like that. It's going to be out there. And one of the things that happens is they get scared.
Yeah.
instantly get scared, but equipping them with the tools to be able to, obviously respectfully fight back. You're not going to. My parents have taught me. They've taught me right from wrong. And I know that the questions you're asking me, the things that you're saying to me are not okay.
Right. Right.
So it's just like, and then teaching them like the word, this is what you can say. If somebody says this about your hair, you can say this. If somebody says this about your skin, these are some things that you can say. If somebody has something to say about your mom being white or your dad being black or anything of that respect, these are things that you can say in those moments to help. Being just prepared, because it will make you shrink down, and that'll again take you into that space system, just feeling I am less than. This person has the ability to put me down in this box.
Right, right. Amen. No, totally. Like, it's our job to like equip our children for what they're going to face in the world.
Math. You're going to teach them math. You're going to teach them reading. You're going to make sure they know all of those things. Teach them how to be confident and how to fight against the people who are going to be negative to them, because they are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's tough. I don't know how Jazz is, or Ashlee, how you were growing up, but Addie has always been a very sensitive kid. She's always wanted everybody to be her friend. And, that led to a lot of bullying, and unfortunately from like both races, when she was younger. So I think she's really started to flourish this year. In seventh grade, and like trying to get some more of that confidence. I mean, it's still going to be a
middle school is so hard.
Struggle.
Still a really tough time in life, regardless.
Oh my gosh! Right?
Yes, but but trying to let her know, like early on, like not everybody is nice. Like not everybody's going to be a good friend to you. Like you don't have to just take whatever if people aren't treating you right, no matter how it is that they're mistreating you.
Like Jazz is still young enough, she's 6, so we haven't had to enter a huge amount of that, but this is the first year that we've had to have a few conversations about not everybody being nice and not everybody has to like you. But they do have to respect you. And I'm sure we'll encounter more of that as she gets older. Once they're school age, it's like off and running, and it's a little nerve wracking as a mom, because like I can't control. Up until this point, I've been able to pretty much control who she comes in contact with and who says what to my child because she's been with me. But now that she's in school, it's like I have to equip her to be able to handle herself, and it's. Did I do enough? You know what I mean?
And it's one of those things is you have to teach them, or something else, or somebody else is, and whether that's someone who's educated and who is teaching them the right things, quote unquote, or someone who's just saying things, but that's what they get and that's their only knowledge of it. So that is what they take in. So whether that be a friend telling them that they are less than, they believe that because that's all they know and nobody else is having any other conversations with it.
Right. Absolutely. If I do one thing, it's probably just talk my child's ears off, because I'm like, I'm giving you all the information on her level, but
Absolutely. I think too, another really big thing, just like talking about systemic racism, is one of the things, especially with both of your daughters being biracial, is the topic of colorism and how big that is, and making sure that they even recognize their privilege in those moments, because that is a space where they're going to have privilege. And I had to, even growing up, for me being a lighter skinned person, I had to recognize that privilege, and that people who were darker than me did not get treated the same way that I did because I was lighter. And that's a huge thing too when you're dealing with it, and raising Black kids is recognizing that, hey, yes, you have a lighter skin tone, but that doesn't, you don't let other people treat other people differently just because of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Super important.
That's awesome. And then kind of tying into what we just been talking about, and then also going back to Ashlee, you talking about how your mom really was instilling in you and being that strong Black female role model, knowing that Pam and I know we have limitations as white moms. Like, as much as we can educate ourselves and like be in it with our families of color, like there's still we're still not going to understand or know everything. So surrounding our daughters and our kids of color with those people of color that are role models for them. So, whether it's my mother-in-law or one of Addie's best friends, like her mom and her grandma are just very like smart, intelligent, wise, like
Mhm.
Black women that know their history, like they know how to empower, their daughters, granddaughters, and then helping build into Addie in the same way. Like I've just always tried to find what are strong Black women that I can have her look up to and learn from.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
people
totally
don't
agree.
realize how important representation is.
Mhm.
It's extremely important to be able to see. And again, going back, I had my mom, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I think it was really big for her because my mom is biracial. So she grew up in a sense of having that world. But the lucky part that she had was that she was also in the military and a military family. And back when she was growing up, when you were biracial, they sent all the biracial families to specific bases. So she
Okay.
was still able to be surrounded by a lot of diversity, even though she's from a small town in Kansas, where you
Right.
would think that it wouldn't be. But
Right.
that was the positive that she had in that respect. And she still faced a lot of racism, but she also knew that it was possible that it didn't have to be like that.
Yeah.
But she made sure that I knew how to speak out against it. And when
Mhm.
people would say things, I could say, no,
Mhm.
absolutely not.
Right. Right. Absolutely. She prepared you for it, which I think that's our goal, like, in life, to prepare our children. And where I may not be able to, I'm hopeful that our friends and family
Yeah.
can, pick up some of those gaps for me.
And it really does take a village, and that's what people have to just raising a child in general. It
Yeah.
really takes a village. We don't know everything, and we
Yeah.
haven't experienced everything. So you just lean on the people that you have and just really,
Mhm.
create that village of, powerful people of everything. And that even, translates into we have to expose our kids to all of different just so that it's not such a shock. And the only reason it's like that is because it shocks people. But if
Mhm.
they're in environments where they're seeing people who are not neurotypical, or they're seeing people in the LGBTQ community, or like that is all stuff
Yeah.
that will not feel so bad if they're just exposed to it on a
Yeah.
normal basis.
Yes, because it's the norm to them.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, that's a huge leap, and something I'm really grateful for is there's all sorts of diversity that's going on in my extended family. That like,
Yeah.
my dad's gay, my mom's a lesbian. Like they were together for 20 years. Like had four of
Mhm.
us, adopted one, and then but
Yeah.
they both knew that they were attracted to the same sex, but the times then it was
Right.
not accepted, and they were best friends, and they really did love each other.
Right.
But when they finally like they split up and then they came out, and they're really happy now. But it's fun um, to do like even like Pride days, and like we've been taking
Yeah.
Addie to that since she was little. Like we're like we don't care. Like
Yeah.
we're like you could end up like your grandma, you could be straight. Like who cares? But we want you to
Right.
like see and embrace the love,
Yeah.
and it's so fun to just take her to those experiences. Or
Mhm.
even just volunteering, and letting her see people that aren't as fortunate,
Yeah.
as she might be. But again, just that whole broad spectrum of
Yes.
diversity is important for
Amen.
everybody.
Yeah, I agree.
Totally agree.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure we could talk all night, but are there any final thoughts that you ladies, we'll definitely, we could just make this a series and do this again.
Right?
But,
We could just keep
is there-
talking and talking.
No, I think we've covered it pretty well. I mean, I just think
Yeah.
the most important thing is also just teaching, especially, as for you as white women raising black children, just teaching your kids you'll go to bat for them. You will always go to bat for them. There's nothing that you won't go to bat for.
Yeah.
Like I have your back 100% every time. Come to me and
Absolutely.
I will, and so and I think that is just a really important thing that they know, like, no, I don't care who you are. No one's going to mess with me because my mom's going to come.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for me, like through this whole process has been educating myself first. So that because there's a lot of things we didn't learn as like white
You
kids
don't
growing
really
up.
learn, you don't really learn anything.
Like
That's
no,
a conversation
we
for another day.
didn't learn hardly
yeah,
anything about Black history, you know,
Right.
like truly. And that's just the tip of the iceberg that we didn't learn, but educating myself so that I can then educate her correctly, you
Yeah.
know, and that to me has been my like life's mission.
Yeah.
Let me learn so I can teach you.
And she's going to remember that. And that's
Yeah.
going to, and as she gets older and she really realizes how hard you went and the lessons that you stepped back to learn, it's going to mean so incredibly much.
I hope so.
Yeah, it definitely will. And like not relying on, you know, schools or churches or whatever we attend, like not relying on them to teach our children.
Yes.
One thing I love that my parents did when we were growing up is, you know, they would pick like a different culture or religion that had nothing to do with, you know, what we were raised in, but spending like a whole day where we would go through and like read the history of it. My mom would make recipes from it, you know, we'd like learn and really, you know, just, you know, pay a lot of honor to that other culture. So, you know,
that's great. Exposing like you to so much diversity at a young age. That's great.
Yeah.
And very grateful.
That is, like you said, the holidays. Making sure that the holidays that you're celebrating are highlighting cultural holidays, Black cultural holidays, or even, you know, you have all these birthdays where we see, you know, different people's birthdays on the calendar. What about these other influential Black people that should be celebrated and their birthdays should be on the calendars and recognized, even if it's not on the world calendar? At home, we know today is this person's birthday. Today is this person's birthday. Today is the day that this happened in Black culture. Making a big thing about it, even if it's not what they're learning at school.
Totally. Absolutely.
That's awesome. We should create more resources.
Yes, right.
Actually, if you're, you know, looking for something to write about, be an amazing resource. I was like, birthdays don't change.
No, really. That's a good one. I'm gonna have to get working on that one.
Yes, you absolutely should. Yeah, I love it. Yes, get on that. Sweet. Well, thank you, ladies, for your time.
Thank you for having me. So much fun.
I know. Love getting to spend time with Pam and Ashlee finally. So yay, ladies are wonderful. So
thank you. We appreciate it.
Right.
Have a good night.
Bye.
You too. All right, bye.
Bye.